The alley behind the lights. The rain had fallen all night in Los Angeles, turning the streets into glistening mirrors that reflected the cold loneliness of the city. People rushed past one another, their umbrellas like shields against the world. No one looked down. No one saw the boy curled up under a dumpster behind the old theater on 7th Street. No one, except fate. His name was Elias. He was just 13. His hair was thick with dust, his hands rough from weeks of scavenging, and his jeans had holes so wide they barely stayed up with the rope he tied around his waist. Each night he pulled a worn-out hoodie tighter around his body, not for fashion or warmth, but to hide from the world that had forgotten him. He hadn't always been homeless. 2 years ago, his parents died in a fire that tore through their small apartment. There was no extended family to take him in. No social worker came quickly enough. He ran, scared of being locked away in some institution where kids disappeared behind steel doors. He believed in stories where hope still lived. But stories didn't feed you. Elias survived by collecting cans, doing odd jobs, and learning which food trucks threw away half-eaten meals at closing time. Yet even in that rough life, he stayed kind. He shared scraps with other kids and never stole. There was a spark in him, a quiet belief that someday someone would see him, and someone did. Not in the way he expected. One evening, the theater was lit up again. Some film premiere was happening. Red carpets, photographers, black cars pulling in one after another. Elias watched from behind the trash bins, his breath fogging the air. Then the crowd grew louder. People leaned over the barriers. Flashbulbs exploded. Keanu Reeves! It's Keanu! Elias didn't know much about celebrities, but he knew that name. Once at the shelter, someone had shown him a movie with Keanu riding a bus that couldn't stop. The man had looked brave, quiet, kind. Tonight he looked just the same in real life. Calm, humble, like he didn't belong among the noise. He signed autographs, smiled gently, and even spoke to the guards politely when they rushed him. Elias leaned forward, fascinated. Then something changed. A black SUV pulled up fast, but instead of stopping, it swerved. People screamed. The SUV headed straight toward Keanu. It happened so fast, no one reacted. No one, except Elias. Without thinking, he jumped the barrier. He sprinted, feet slapping the wet pavement, heart thudding like a drum. Keanu stood frozen, surprised by the chaos. The SUV's lights were inches from his chest. Elias dove. He hit Keanu hard and rolled with him, both tumbling into a row of velvet ropes. The SUV screeched past, missing them by inches before crashing into a lamppost. Silence fell. Guards swarmed. People shouted. Cameras flashed wildly. Keanu lay on the ground, stunned, staring at the boy who had just saved his life. Elias gasped for air, trembling. A deep voice asked, "Are you okay?" It was Keanu. Elias sat up slowly. "You're okay?" Keanu nodded. "Thanks to you." Before Elias could reply, security pulled him away. He struggled. "Wait, I wasn't trying to hurt him." But the guards didn't listen. They grabbed his hoodie and dragged him to the side. Reporters swarmed, shouting questions. Someone snapped a close-up of his scared, dirt-covered face. Keanu stood up, brushing off his coat. Then he shouted, "Stop!" Everything froze. "That boy saved me," he said. "Let him go." The guards paused. No one disobeyed Keanu Reeves. He walked over to Elias, offered a hand, and pulled him gently to his feet. Elias blinked at him. "I didn't mean to. I just saw... You were in danger." Keanu looked into the boy's eyes and saw something rare. Courage. Not the kind made for headlines. The kind born from pain. He placed a hand on Elias's shoulder. "What's your name?" "Elias." "Elias," Keanu said softly. "You just saved my life. Thank you." People were whispering now. The press had captured everything. Some tried to push closer, but Keanu raised a hand. "I'll talk to the police, make sure he's not in trouble," he said. Elias stared at the ground, feeling overwhelmed. His heart was still pounding, but not from fear anymore. From something else. A strange warmth. a hope he hadn't felt in a long time. After the ambulance checked him for injuries and confirmed he was fine, Keanu approached again. "Are you alone, Elias?" The boy nodded slowly. "I sleep behind the theater. Nobody sees me." Keanu crouched beside him. "I see you." Those words struck deeper than anything else. They broke something inside Elias, a wall he had built for years. His lips quivered. "I don't want anything. I just didn't want you to get hurt." Keanu smiled. "What if I offered you something anyway?" Elias frowned. "Like what?" "Second chance," Keanu said. "A warm bed, food, someone to talk to." Elias hesitated. "Why?" Keanu looked around at the crowd still watching. "Because when I was your age, someone gave me a second chance too." That night, Keanu took Elias with him, not to a hotel or some fancy party, but to a quiet little diner a few blocks away, the kind with chipped coffee cups and friendly waitresses who didn't care about fame. They sat across from each other in a corner booth. Elias had pancakes and eggs for the first time in months. Keanu asked questions gently, never pushing. Elias told him everything: the fire, the streets, the loneliness. Keanu listened, truly listened, like every word mattered. "You're strong," he said, "but you shouldn't have to be this strong alone." Elias looked up. "What happens now?" Keanu stirred his coffee. "You saved my life. Now I'm going to help rebuild yours." And in that small diner, between bites of syrup-soaked pancakes, a boy who had nothing found the first real moment of belonging in years. Outside, the rain finally stopped. But the storm inside Elias's heart had only just begun to clear. He didn't know it yet, but the next few days would change everything. Because when Keanu Reeves makes a promise, he keeps it, even when the world doubts him. Especially then. The promise that followed: the next morning, sunlight poured into the small guest room of a quiet apartment building in West Hollywood. The curtains were open, and the warm light touched the face of Elias as he stirred under a real blanket for the first time in years. His eyes blinked open slowly. For a moment he forgot where he was. No alley, no cold concrete, no rats skittering near the trash. Just silence. Soft sheets, warm air, the smell of toast. He sat up fast, heart pounding. Panic flooded him. Was he dreaming? Then the door opened. Gently, Keanu stood there holding 2 plates. "You're up," he said with a kind smile. "I brought breakfast." Elias froze. This wasn't a dream. He stared at the man who had kept his word. Not a manager, not an assistant, not a driver. Keanu himself. He set the plates down. Toast, eggs, fruit. Nothing fancy, but to Elias it looked like a king's feast. "You okay?" Keanu asked. Elias nodded slowly. I thought maybe it was a one-time thing." Keanu sat down across from him. "I don't do one-time things. You saved me. I don't forget people like that." Elias looked down at the plate. "You don't owe me anything." "Maybe," Keanu said, "but maybe that's the wrong way to see it. Maybe the world works better when we take care of each other, not because we owe it, but because we can." Those words felt strange to Elias. Kindness that wasn't pretending, not forced, just real. They ate quietly. Keanu didn't ask too many questions. He just talked about normal things. Books, motorcycles, how he once burned a grilled cheese so badly the fire alarm screamed. Elias laughed, and the sound surprised even him. Keanu looked pleased. "There it is." "What?" "Your real laugh. I was waiting to hear it." After breakfast, Keanu made a call. He didn't say much, just gave a name and an address. Then he turned to Elias. "How would you feel about getting cleaned up? Maybe some new clothes?" Elias hesitated. "You mean, like, a store?" Keanu nodded. "A friend of mine runs a place. It's quiet. He'll help us. You can pick what you like." Elias swallowed hard. "Okay." They left together, walking through the streets side by side. A few people noticed Keanu, but he kept his arm gently around Elias's shoulders, guiding him like a father would. At the store, the owner smiled warmly. "This the young man?" "This is Elias," Keanu said. "He's important to me." Elias blushed. The man offered a hand. "You've got guts, kid." Over the next hour, Elias tried on jeans that fit, shirts without holes, sneakers with working laces. He stared at himself in the mirror. He almost didn't recognize the boy staring back. Keanu watched from the corner. "You look like yourself again." Elias turned. "I don't even know who that is." Keanu stepped closer. "You're gonna find out." That afternoon, they sat in a quiet park under a tree. Children played nearby. The breeze was gentle. "What do you want, Elias?" Keanu asked. The question startled him. "What do you mean?" "What do you want to do with your life?" Elias picked at the grass. "I don't know. I used to want to draw. Before the fire, I used to draw all the time." "Then why not start again?" "Because dreams don't come true for kids like me." Keanu looked serious now. "I used to think the same. My father left. I struggled with school. People said I'd never be anything. But I kept going, because every time someone told me I couldn't, I decided to try anyway." Elias stared at him. "But you're famous." "Not because of luck," Keanu said. "Because I never gave up. And because people believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." Elias was quiet for a long time. Then he asked, "Do you believe in me?" Keanu looked him in the eye. "Yes, I do." Elias nodded. Something shifted in his chest. A crack. A space for hope. The next few days moved like a dream. Keanu introduced him to a tutor, a gentlewoman named Maria who taught him reading, math, and how to write stories again. He met a counselor who didn't judge, just listened. For the first time in his life, adults treated him like he mattered. But not everything was easy. At night, Elias still had nightmares, memories of fire, screaming, running, waking up cold. Keanu never pushed. He just sat with him, sometimes in silence, sometimes reading books aloud until Elias fell asleep again. Then, one night, things changed. They were walking back from a small diner when a voice called out, "Yo, is that Keanu Reeves?" A group of teens across the street were pointing. Keanu nodded politely. "Who's the street rat with you?" One boy shouted, laughing. Elias froze. The words hit hard. Reminders of every insult, every cold look, every time he was treated like garbage. Keanu turned to him. "You okay?" Elias nodded, but he was lying. Later that night, he sat on the couch staring at the floor. Keanu sat beside him. "You don't have to pretend." "Why do people say stuff like that?" Elias whispered. "They don't even know me." "Because it's easier to judge than to understand," Keanu said. "But their words don't define you." Elias looked up, eyes wet. "Then what does?" Keanu placed a hand on his shoulder. "Your choices, your heart, the fact that you saved a stranger when you didn't have to. That's who you are." Tears rolled down Elias's cheeks, but he didn't hide them. "Thank you," he whispered. "Don't thank me," Keanu said. "Just promise me one thing." "What?" "That you'll keep believing in the good inside you, even when it's hard." Elias nodded slowly, and in that quiet room a broken boy began to heal, because someone finally saw him, not just as a problem to fix, but as a soul worth saving. And that changed everything. But the world wasn't done testing him yet, not even close. Whispers from the pasta week had passed since Elias had stepped out of the alley and into Keanu's life. He now had warm clothes, 3 meals a day, and a place to sleep without fear. But peace was not as easy as it sounded. Comfort could not erase pain overnight. Healing was not a straight line. One morning, Elias sat at the kitchen table staring at a blank sheet of paper. Maria had given him a drawing pad and pencils, hoping he would begin to sketch again. Keanu had even found him an old comic book to inspire ideas. But nothing came. His hand trembled each time he touched the pencil. He sighed, pushed the pad away, and stood up. Keanu walked in, holding a cup of tea. "Tried drawing?" Elias shook his head. "It's not working." Keanu sat beside him. Sometimes the things we love become the hardest when they remind us of what we lost. Elias said nothing. Keanu continued, "You don't have to rush. The spark will come back. Just don't shut the door." "I don't even know what to draw anymore," Elias whispered. "The world's not beautiful." Keanu leaned forward. "But you are. And the beauty inside you can still shape the world." Those words stayed with Elias for days, not just because they were kind, but because they felt true. Later that week, Keanu took him to a small art museum downtown. It wasn't a grand place, but it had color. It had soul. As they walked past paintings, Elias noticed something strange. Many of the pictures were messy. Broken lines, faded shades, imperfect people. "These aren't perfect," he said. Keanu smiled. "No art is, but they're honest, and that makes them powerful." Elias stood before a painting of a single boy on a rooftop, looking up at the stars. His voice was soft. "That's how I feel. Small, but hoping." Keanu glanced at him. "Then maybe that's your first drawing." Back at the apartment, Elias finally picked up the pencil. The lines came slowly. Shaky at first, then steady. A rooftop, stars. A boy with a hoodie looking up. He didn't know it yet, but that sketch would change everything. But first, his past came knocking. One rainy evening, Keanu and Elias returned from dinner. As they entered the building, the doorman handed Keanu an envelope. "This came for you," he said. Keanu opened it slowly, his brows furrowed. "What is it?" Elias asked. Keanu hesitated, then handed him the paper. Inside was a photograph, a blurry shot of Elias sleeping behind the dumpster. Scribbled on the back were words that made Elias's blood run cold. "You took what wasn't yours. I want him back." Elias dropped the photo. His hands shook. "I know who that is." Keanu's face turned serious. "Who?" "A man named Vince. He used to find kids like me, make us do things, steal, lie, run errands for bad people. If we didn't, he beat us. He said we owed him." Keanu's jaw tightened. "He's trying to scare you." "He will find me," Elias said, eyes wide with fear. "He always does." Keanu picked up the photo and calmly folded it. "Not this time, you're not alone anymore." "He's dangerous, Keanu." Keanu placed a hand on his shoulder. "So am I, when it comes to protecting people I care about." But that night Elias couldn't sleep. Old memories clawed at him. Fists, threats, darkness. Vince had once burned a boy's shoes to make a point. He stared at the ceiling, heart pounding. Then, soft footsteps. Keanu peeked into his room. "Still up?" Elias nodded. Keanu sat beside him. "I've made some calls. I've got people looking into him." "What if he finds us first?" Keanu's eyes were steady. "Then he'll have to go through me." Elias whispered. "Why do you care so much?" Keanu paused before answering. "Because I've been lost before, and because someone once cared when they didn't have to." Elias looked away. "I don't want you to get hurt because of me." "You already saved me once, remember?" Elias gave a weak smile. "Yeah." Keanu ruffled his hair gently. "Then let me return the favor." Over the next few days, security increased. Keanu had a close friend from his film crew, a former Marine, begin staying nearby. Cameras were installed. Precautions were taken, but the fear didn't go away. One afternoon, as Elias waited for Maria to arrive, he took a walk down the block. He wanted to buy a small notebook from the corner shop, something private, just for his drawings. As he turned the corner, he saw a man watching him, dark coat, hood up, eyes sharp. Elias froze. The man smirked. "Long time, kid." It was Vince. Elias turned to run, but Vince grabbed his arm. "You think you're safe with that actor? You belong to me." Elias struggled. "Let go." Vince tightened his grip. "You don't get to walk away from me, rat. I made you. You owe me." A sudden shout. "Let him go." It was Keanu. He charged across the street, voice calm but fierce. Vince laughed. Look who came to play hero. Keanu didn't stop. He stepped between them, his body shielding Elias. Touch him again, Keanu said quietly, and I will end you. Vince sneered. You're just an actor. Keanu leaned close. And you're a coward. Walk away while you still can. Vince looked at him, then at Elias. This isn't over, he hissed. He backed off and disappeared into the alley. Keanu turned to Elias, checking his arm. Are you okay? Elias nodded, but tears were forming. Keanu held him close. You're safe, I promise. Later that night, Keanu contacted his legal team and the police. A report was filed. A restraining order was started. Vince had a record. Now they had a face, but Elias still couldn't shake the fear. Keanu sat beside him on the balcony, the city lights glowing below. He'll never stop, Elias whispered. Even if you scare him, he'll wait. Keanu said nothing for a moment. Then, do you know why I've never let fear control my life? Elias looked at him. Because fear only wins when we stop living. You didn't survive all that pain. Just to run forever. Elias looked down. Then what do I do? You fight back, not with fists, with your future. How? You become the boy you were meant to be. You use your pain to create something beautiful. Elias looked at his sketchpad. The drawing of the boy on the rooftop stared back. I think I'm ready to finish this, he said. Keanu smiled. Then let's start with that. And in the days that followed, something began to change. Not in the world, but in Elias. The fear was still there, but it no longer ruled him, and soon the world would hear his voice. Because a boy once broken would soon rise with purpose, and the story was just beginning. The voice inside the silence, it had been 2 weeks since the rooftop drawing. 2 weeks since Elias had faced the man who once controlled his life. Fear still came like shadows at dusk, but something inside him had shifted. He wasn't hiding anymore. He was creating. Each morning, he sat at the small desk in the guest room Keanu had set up for him. With pencils and charcoal sticks, he poured memories onto paper, some dark, some full of hope. He didn't talk much while drawing. He didn't need to. The art spoke louder than words. One day, Maria came to tutor him, and when she saw his sketches laid out like pages from a storybook, she stopped in awe. Elias, she whispered, have you ever shown these to anyone? He shook his head. They're just for me. She knelt beside him, gently placing a hand on the edge of one page. It was a picture of 2 hands, one reaching down, the other reaching up, surrounded by flames. This, she said, is powerful. He shrugged. It's just what I feel. That's why it matters. That evening, Maria pulled Keanu aside. Have you seen what he's drawing? She asked. Keanu nodded. I let him show me when he's ready. His drawings tell stories, she said. Raw ones, the kind people need to see. Keanu thought about it for a moment, then smiled. Maybe it's time the world heard him. The next day, Keanu took Elias to a small art center downtown. The building was old but filled with soul, artists, musicians, and creators of all kinds. There he introduced Elias to a woman named June. June was in her 50s, wore bright scarves, and always had paint under her nails. So this is the young artist, she said, smiling warmly. Elias looked shy. I'm not really an artist, June chuckled. That's what every great one says before they change the world. She showed him around, quiet rooms with easels, canvas racks, old wooden stools. You can come here any time, she said. Draw, paint, just be. Elias nodded slowly. Thank you. For the first time in his life, he had a place where he could be himself without fear of being thrown out. June even invited him to a local youth art show happening in a month. Think about submitting something, she said. Your voice matters. Elias wasn't sure. Showing his work meant showing his pain. That night, as he walked with Keanu back to the apartment, he asked quietly, Do you think people will care? Keanu looked up at the stars. People care more than you know. They're just waiting for someone brave enough to speak first. Elias thought about that. Later, while lying in bed, he stared at the ceiling. In his heart, he felt something strange. Not fear. Not sadness. Something else. A quiet call to be seen. In the following days, Elias began preparing for the art show. He chose 3 pieces: the rooftop sketch, the hands in the fire, and a new one, his most personal yet. It was a boy standing at the edge of a broken road, but behind him stood the silhouette of a man with kind eyes and a hand resting on his shoulder. Together, they faced the light ahead. He titled it, "The Day Everything Changed." Keanu saw it and said nothing at first. Then he placed a hand over his heart. "That's your story," he whispered. "And mine." On the day of the art show, Elias wore a plain white shirt and jeans. He didn't want to look fancy. He just wanted to feel real. The room was filled with people, parents, students, artists. Keanu stood close by, not as a celebrity but as a quiet guardian. Elias's drawings were placed on one of the center walls. People walked past. They paused. They read the small labels beside each one. They turned to look for the artist. Some came, up to Elias. "Did you really draw these? They made me cry." "Your work is honest. It matters." Elias nodded, overwhelmed by the kindness. He couldn't find words, but he didn't need them. Then a young girl walked up. She couldn't have been more than 10. "My brother is in foster care," she said quietly. "Your drawings made me think of him." Elias knelt down. "He's not alone, okay?" She nodded and hugged him. Keanu watched from across the room, eyes shining. Later that night, back at the apartment, Elias sat on the couch holding a small envelope. Inside was a letter from the art show. "We want to feature your work in the city's Youth Creative Showcase next month," it read. He looked up at Keanu. "They want to show my drawings in front of hundreds of people." Keanu smiled. "Then say yes." Elias nodded, but something troubled him. What if Vince shows up again? What if he tries to ruin it? Keanu grew serious. "I've been working on something." He handed Elias. A folder inside were court papers. Keanu had helped the police build a case. Witness statements. Records. Vince had been arrested 2 nights earlier. He wouldn't be bothering anyone again. Elias stared at the pages, not fully believing it. "He's gone?" he asked. Keanu nodded. "You're free now." Elias didn't cry. He just sat very still. Because sometimes when you've waited so long for safety, you don't celebrate with noise. You breathe. And for the first time in years, Elias breathed freely. In the days that followed, he kept drawing, not to escape but to speak. He started school again with Maria's help, made 2 friends who liked comics and chocolate milk. He smiled more, laughed louder, and every night he sat with Keanu, watching old movies and eating popcorn. They didn't need to talk much, because family isn't always built by blood. Sometimes it's formed when someone stands beside you in the fire and says, "I'm not leaving," but life wasn't done surprising them. Not yet, because the world was about to discover Elias, and everything would change again. The world hears his name. The day of the Youth Creative Showcase arrived like a rising wave, calm at first, but building with each hour. The event was being held at a large hall in downtown Los Angeles filled with art, music, and stories of survival. Elias stood in the green room with his hands stuffed deep in his pockets. He wore a soft blue shirt and dark jeans. He had brushed his hair that morning. Not because someone told him to, but because he wanted to be seen. Keanu sat beside him. "Nervous?" Elias nodded. "A little." "Good," Keanu said. "Nerves mean you care." Outside, the crowd grew. Press, families, city leaders, artists, even a few celebrities. What started as a local event had grown into something larger, especially after a reporter had picked up the story of a homeless boy who saved a Hollywood icon. The article had gone viral. "Homeless teen saves Keanu Reeves, turns pain into art. The city wants to listen." Now everyone wanted to see Elias, but he wasn't thinking about fame. He was thinking about the alley, the cold, the hunger. The nights when he thought no one would ever say his name with kindness. Again, he whispered to himself, "You made it." Then a volunteer opened the door. "Elias, you're up." Keanu gave him a look, not pushing, just steady, proud. Elias walked onto the stage. The lights were bright. A hush fell over the crowd. Behind him, 3 of his drawings were displayed on a massive screen: the rooftop sketch, the hands reaching through fire, and the newest one, the boy walking forward with stars above him, his path lit by hope. A microphone stood before him. He gripped it. His voice trembled at first. "Hi, I'm Elias." A beat. "Used to live behind a theater. No one saw me. I thought I didn't matter. Then one night I saw someone in danger, and I ran toward him. Not because I was brave, because I knew what it felt like to be invisible. People leaned forward. The man I saved. He didn't walk away. He saw me. He gave me food, shelter. But more than that, he gave me back my voice." His eyes scanned the crowd. "These drawings, they're pieces of me. Things I couldn't say. Things I still struggle with." He turned to the final image behind him. "But I'm walking now. Forward. And I want every kid who feels forgotten to know, you can walk too, even if your steps are small." Silence. Then someone clapped, then another. Within seconds, the hall filled with standing applause. Elias blinked in disbelief. As he stepped off the stage, people swarmed him, not to take, but to give. Handshakes, hugs, tears. A woman handed him a card. "I run a youth art foundation. We'd love to sponsor you." A teacher said, "Will you come speak at my school?" A journalist asked gently, "Can I tell your story to more people?" Elias looked for Keanu in the crowd and saw him smiling. Not with pride for being famous, but with the quiet joy of someone who had planted a seed and watched it grow. Later that night, back at the apartment, Elias sat on the balcony with a blanket around his shoulders. The city lights sparkled. Keanu joined him with 2 mugs of hot cocoa. "How do you feel?" he asked. Elias thought for a while. "Like, I'm not scared of being known anymore." Keanu nodded. "You shouldn't be. The world doesn't need perfection. It needs truth." "Is that what I gave them?" "You gave them light." A soft breeze passed, then Elias asked a question he hadn't dared say out loud before. "Am I worth it?" Keanu looked straight into his eyes. "Every second." Elias didn't cry. He just smiled, because finally he believed it too. The next week, emails poured in, invitations, scholarships. People wanted to fund his education, support his art, mentor his growth. But one letter stood out. It was handwritten. "Dear Elias, I saw your story. I've been in a group home since I was 9. Your words helped me tell my counselor what really happened to me. Thank you for being brave. You changed my life." Dariuselius held the letter like treasure. "I helped someone," he whispered. Keanu read the letter too. "You'll help more." But not everyone was happy about the attention. A tabloid printed a twisted version of the story. "Keanu Reeves adopts street kid to fix public image?" The headline spread fast. Online trolls started questioning Elias's past. He's probably lying. He's just using Keanu for fame. Keanu's team advised staying quiet, but Elias couldn't. He posted a drawing online. It showed a boy with a tape over his mouth surrounded by phones and cameras. Beneath it, he wrote, "You only hear what fits your story. I'll keep drawing mine." It went viral again. This time, people defended him. The tide turned. Elias wasn't just the boy who had survived. He was the boy who spoke back. One day, Keanu came home holding a small envelope. "What's that?" Elias asked. Keanu handed it to him. "From a gallery. They want to offer you a solo show next year." Elias blinked. "Me? Alone?" "You," Keanu said. "And you won't be alone. I'll be there." The months ahead brought more growth. Therapy, sessions that helped him unpack years of silence. friendships that felt real and kind, school days filled with curiosity instead of fear, art that blossomed from pain into power, and always, Keanu, not as a savior, but as a constant. They celebrated birthdays together, watched snow fall on rooftops, read books aloud by the fire, and one night, as they sat quietly on the couch, Keanu asked, "Do you ever think about the night we met?" Elias nodded. "All the time." "Would you change it?" Elias shook his head. "No. Because that's the night my life started." Keanu looked at him with warmth in his eyes. "Mine too," he said. "Because sometimes the people we save are the same people who save us back, and neither of them would ever forget that." But the biggest moment of Elias's life was still ahead. One more step, one more test, and it would define who he had become. The moment that defined him. Spring came to Los Angeles with soft breezes and golden light. The trees near the art center bloomed with pink petals, and the streets smelled of fresh beginnings. Elias stood near a large window in the gallery, watching people enter. His first solo exhibition was about to begin. He wore a black sweater, clean, jeans and sneakers with tiny silver stars. He didn't try to look perfect. He tried to look like himself. Each wall of the gallery held pieces of his story, drawings of fire and shadows, hope and healing, silence and voice. People walked slowly, reading the small captions he had written in simple words. A woman stopped in front of one piece, a drawing of a boy sitting on a rooftop, surrounded by swirling winds and whispers of faces behind him. Caption: "Even when you're alone, someone out there is wishing you weren't." Elias watched as she wiped a tear from her cheek. He wasn't nervous, not anymore. This was his space, his truth. Keanu arrived quietly, dressed in a brown jacket and jeans, wearing the same calm smile he had always worn. He gave Elias a small nod from across the room. They didn't need words. Their bond was built on more than that. Then something unexpected happened. A teacher from the city stepped up to the small microphone near the front of the gallery. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, "tonight is not just a celebration of talent. It is a celebration of courage. This young man has inspired not only us but thousands across the world. And today, the city of Los Angeles would like to honor him." Elias blinked. "Elias," the teacher said, "please come forward." He looked at Keanu, who gave him a quiet thumbs up. He stepped forward. The teacher handed him a small plaque. It read, "In recognition of outstanding courage, creativity, and impact, to Elias, who turned pain into purpose." People applauded, but Elias didn't smile right away. He stepped to the microphone and took a deep breath. "Thank you," he began softly. "This means more than you know. But I don't want to be remembered just as the boy who was saved." People grew silent. "I want to be remembered as the boy who got back up, who took what nearly broke him and turned it into something useful." He glanced at the crowd, then at Keanu. "I didn't do this alone, I had help. And now I want to help too." He pulled a paper from his pocket and unfolded it. "I'm starting a program," he said. "It's called Light Inside. It'll help kids who feel invisible. We'll give them tools to create art, tell stories, speak without fear. We'll help them feel seen." The crowd murmured with admiration. "You don't have to be rich or famous to save someone," he added. "You just have to care enough to stay." Applause erupted again, and this time Elias smiled, not out of pride but out of peace. Because now he wasn't just surviving, he was building something. After the show, a boy around 10 years old approached Elias with his mother. "Hi," the boy said quietly. "I live in a shelter. Sometimes I draw too." Elias knelt down. "Can I see something you made?" The boy pulled a crumpled paper from his jacket, a sketch of a house, broken on one side, repaired on the other. Elias stared at it. "This is incredible." The boy lit up. "You ever think about showing it to the world?" Elias asked. The boy shrugged. "Don't think anyone would care." Elias gently placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "I care." The mother mouthed a silent, "Thank you." Keanu watched from the corner of the room, his eyes soft and full. Later that night, as they walked home under the streetlights, Elias asked, "Did you think this would happen? When you first saw me behind the dumpster?" Keanu thought for a moment. "I hoped. But you didn't know." "No," Keanu said. "But sometimes you don't need to know. You just need to believe someone's worth the chance." They walked a few steps more. Elias looked up. "You changed my life." Keanu paused. "No, Elias, you changed your life. I just stood by you while you did it." And it was true, because even though it had started with a leap, a single moment, where a boy ran into danger to save a stranger, everything after had come from the strength inside him. Boy who had no home became a boy who built homes of hope for others. A boy who once whispered now spoke for thousands. A boy who had nothing but pain turned it into something the world needed. And as the stars appeared overhead, Elias looked up. Not in search of answers, but in quiet thanks, because now he believed in light. Not the kind from street lamps or camera flashes, the kind that grows when someone says, "I see you," and means it.